Welcome to my dating podcast. Today, I'm super excited to have a special guest with me, and we are so excited to talk more about dating and explore the topic, especially of authenticity and balancing that with technique, strategy, and your approach to dating overall, and some of those nuances, but really diving deep into the power of authenticity. I'm super, super excited to welcome our guest, Sam Whitney. Well, Sam, actually, let me just have you introduce yourself. Could you give us an intro?
Sure, Matt. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm glad to be here. Yeah, look, I'm an author of a book called How to Date Authentically: End the Dating Game and Find Lasting Love. I wrote this book in response to some troubling trends I was seeing in the dating world, and based a lot in my own experiences and some of the experiences of others. And it's been an interesting experience bringing that to the market and helping people with that. But that's a little bit about me. 5 kids. I've been married 10 years. I think a dating coach should at least have succeeded somehow in the dating endeavor. I'm in a good relationship, which is good.
Perfect. Well, I'm so glad to have you, Sam. Thank you so much for your time and all the listeners. There's going to be a lot of value here. And so I'm very excited for this conversation. Okay, so Sam, your book, it's called How to Date Authentically, right?
Correct. Yep.
So your book emphasizes, and part of the title too, emphasizes dropping the game and showing up authentically in dating. And can you share with us a little bit more about like what led you to that, having that perspective, and what's your story behind that?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking. So the story behind that was that I was chronically single for a while and very frustrated with the dating process. It felt like I was kind of like most of us tossed into the dating river and not given a lot of instruction. No one had given me a handbook. And so I sort of had to poke around and fail a lot before I started to figure out what to do. But regardless of how good I got at talking to girls, or regardless of how I seemed to improve my technique, something was still holding me back. And it was an epiphany that I had probably 2 years before probably a year before I met my wife, that really shifted things for me. That helped me see that, well, technique is very important. Like, the reasons why you engage in the dating project are equally as important. Like, people can smell our intentions. They know why we are doing what we're doing. And I think we can all relate to that. We all know when we're with someone who really genuinely cares about us, and we all know when we're with someone who just wants something from us. We can sense the genuine nature of people. I guess what I was doing was I was trying to leverage technique from a really non-genuine, non-authentic place, and it wasn't working. And when I unlocked that deeper level, suddenly the techniques became really useful, but in a way that was really sort of guiding in the right direction. And I found girls beginning to respond differently. And so that led me to marry my wife. And then a little later into my married life, a mentor of mine, I was telling the story to, he said I should write a book. So I tried, and here we are.
I love that. And something that I heard that I thought, I mean, I'm just kind of pulling it out here from your story is you felt like maybe you were being fake in dating. Is that right?
I think that's a really good word for it. I couldn't see that at the time. I thought I was trying to be really straightforward, but I figured out what authenticity was. I always thought authenticity was sort of putting my best foot forward or just kind of being who I was. But authenticity was more about forgetting about me. It was more about allowing a certain version of myself to emerge when I was with others. It sort of became this tagline, like, to be successful in dating is not to prove that you're likable, but to let the other person know that you really truly are genuinely interested in them. That was I was being fake, but not in the way that I thought. Like, if you had asked me at the time, I would have told you I'm not being fake. I'm being true. I'm being real. But I really wasn't bringing my best self into it.
What can you tell us more about that? Like, what do you mean? Like, you weren't really bringing your best self into it, and you say you were like you would feel like, hey, I wasn't being fake. What, like, how were you being fake?
Yeah. So in the book, we deal with kind of these underlying goals. And I would say my goal in dating, in the book, we talk about being right versus being happy. And so I think my goal was to be right. And the reason why I chose the word right, it means to win an argument, right? I was trying to win an argument with my culture. Growing up, I had been fed a steady diet of messages in the form of books and movies and social media that told me how dating had to go, what kind of person I was supposed to pursue. the things that I was supposed to say, the things I was supposed to do, what the relationship was supposed to look like, the story that was supposed to play out. And so I was using dating as a project to really validate myself. And I couldn't see that. I was using the girls I was dating as an opportunity to say, look, I'm a successful and awesome person. And the dating project was really about me, bringing that story to life. Like the girls I was dating were essentially interchangeable pieces on my chessboard, whatever it took to win. And instead of really seeing them as people, I saw them more as objects. And because, it's really difficult to look through binoculars and look at them at the same time. It's the problem of the lens, right? Like I can't I can't comprehend how I'm seeing things because I'm seeing them that way. And so I was stuck. I was looking through those binoculars. I wasn't being critical of the way that I was seeing things. And so I thought I was right. Like I thought I was doing everything right. And I was driving girls away and I was very frustrated with that. And my explanation for that was that the girls were just nuts, so they couldn't get it or they didn't understand. And in reality was I was the one kind of putting roadblocks in the path and couldn't see that. And it was only when I kind of snapped out of that. In the book, we talk about some ways to do that, where I started to have this goal to be happy rather than right. I was not trying to win an argument. I was actually trying to genuinely connect with another human being. That intention piece shifted. And when that shifted, girls could smell that. Like they knew that I wasn't there to just get them to join my story. They weren't an object. They were suddenly a person. And that became a lot more attractive. And I became more successful and eventually married. Yeah.
I love it. That is okay. Thank you for that explanation. I think that is fantastic. I think that's a really good message for a lot of people to hear, like looking at people as respectfully as people and understanding like there's a greater good together, and relationships can build us up. And so let's bring genuine connection in there. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. I'm gonna ask this question now. How do you define what it means to be authentic? I think you've talked about this a little bit, but what does
Sure.
that mean? And what does that mean in dating?
Yeah. So I've got a great friend and someone who helped endorse the book and helped me with a bit of the research on this. He's a authenticity researcher out of the University of Illinois named Jacob Brown, Dr. Jacob Brown. And he talks about the fact that we often misunderstand the idea of authenticity. We think what people often call their authentic self is who they think their default self is. And it's usually a version of themselves that they most like or they most think that people will respond to. They think it's the most socially acceptable version of themselves. And when they're being that person, they feel authentic. And when they're not being the person that's socially accepted, then they don't feel authentic. And so I kind of say, look, and according to Jacob's work, like authenticity is something that emerges. So it's actually not something that I can click my heels together and say, I'm now authentically me. It's more someone that emerges when I'm in flow with relationship with other people. So when we're having a great conversation and I'm really listening to you and we're really connecting on some important things, then sort of my authentic self emerges, the person that I am who exists in relationship with other people. So instead of being like, because a lot of times in dating, what we're doing is we're trying on different masks, right? Like maybe they'll like this version of me. Maybe they'll like this version of me. And we're portraying ourselves in a particular way. And then we call that ourself. But I think the truth is that you really can't force that. It has to be something that emerges naturally when you take a genuine interest in other people. Version of you that we would ultimately call authentic is something that comes out. And we have to, that's why there's not like a direct approach at it. In the book, we talk about going through the back door. You sort of have to go through the back door of opening yourself up and really listening to other people and then allowing that authentic version of you to appear. Because when we start to see people as people, people are amazing. They're super dynamic, and every person you meet has something that will delight you. Every person you meet has something that will disappoint you. Every single person is this mixed bag of infinite mystery. And when we start to really see that, we become really interested in them. And when that happens, when we really get interested in other people for their own sake, not only because they serve a purpose in our life, then we're able to drop the pretext and drop the sort of portraying and get really to the being with others. And that's why I think the authenticity lives. It's a bit of an esoteric answer, Matt. Sorry, it's like a
Yeah.
this ghost kind of thing, but I think it's something that we have to be cognizant of because otherwise we're going to try and force it. And anytime it's like that, the song "When You're Authentic and You Know It, Then You're Not." It's you sort of don't even realize you're being authentic. It's a state of flow that emerges.
I have a question for you. And this is just diving deeper into what it means to be authentic, I'd probably say. But I hear a lot of people give this dating advice of, hey, just be yourself. And a lot of people consider that as really good dating advice. And I actually I disagree with that with some nuance. And I heard this really smart guy. I think he's just like a personal life coach for people, but he talked about it in a very interesting way. He said, if you're just going to be yourself, well, there's a lot of issues with you. Like, we're all imperfect, right? Like, there's a lot of issues with each of us. So that's like the extreme. Like, hey, I'm not going to change myself at all. I'm just going to be myself, my natural self. And that's how I want to be. And that extreme is there's the other extreme of the world tells you, like, hey, you have to be like this. This is what you need to have in your life. This is what you need to see and be like in your life. And that doesn't feel good to people. And people are like, I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to be myself. And there's like these two extremes. But he said, really, what you want to do is go somewhere right in the middle where you're becoming your best self. And it seems like this topic of authenticity in your book, like you kind of talk more about that. And in a lot of cases, like just being myself, I'm not going to get the kind of results that I want. I have to level up myself to get the results I want, whether that's in my career or dating or, every aspect of life. I think that's a true principle. So I want to ask you, Sam, like, what is your take on that? Like the balance of, should you just be yourself? Like, or do you need to be someone? Like how would you explain that?
That's a really good question, Matt. And that's a really cool insight that the person you're quoting brought forward. I think it's interesting. On the one hand, we need to think about what a self is, right? Like, is a self some stagnant, fixed thing that we're born with into the world? And suddenly you have to honor that and be that thing, and that's how you be authentic? I disagree with that. I think on the far end of the spectrum, just saying, I'm going to be me is often misguided because it's not caveated with the proper thing. Because to be a self is to be in growth. To be alive is to grow, is to change. One of the things that characterizes a living thing is that it changes constantly. It has phases, it has growth, it has a destiny of some kind, right? Whether that's a flower, whether that's a mouse, or that's a human being, we all go through phases of growth. So you're not the same person you were when you were 15 years old. You're not the same person you were 5 weeks ago. Parts of you change and they alter. And if you can notice the fact that to be human is to be in growth, you can be okay with the fact that you're going to change. And that's not a betrayal of your authentic self. That's actually stepping into the fact that you're recognizing the fact that to be authentic means to be in change at times. I think on the other hand, it's important to notice that often people who hold to themselves, like, no, this is who I am, and they put authenticity in that way, they misuse that word, I think. They're often quite hypocritical in its use. They would say, well, I don't have to change. But if they meet a girl, for example, who's fit, who goes to the gym, and they're attracted to that, it's like, look, that isn't an accident. She's not default fit. She goes to the gym. She makes decisions to go. So you're attracted to a person who takes their health seriously. Or if someone's like really well read, that doesn't happen by accident. Again, that's someone who's decided to use their time off of their phone to read books. And that's like an attractive quality. So to recognize that we're actually attracted to people who improve themselves, people who take seriously their obligation to grow. And when we recognize that, we go, oh, so why am I allowed to stay the same, but I want other people to change? And that's a hypocrisy. We kind of recognize, so maybe being authentic isn't just being, this is who I am. I'm going to hold that up to the world and say, you have to accept me or don't love me. You don't love me. I can say, actually, I'm in growth and I admire people who are giving their best and trying to become their best. So that means I have an obligation to do the same. And then when I'm doing that, I'm actually authentically not only honoring the other person by living up to my best standards, I'm honoring the other person by saying, you deserve to be with someone who's doing that too, just as much as I want to be with someone who's doing that. You swing the pendulum to the other side and it's, hey, I have to conform to what the world wants me to do. I don't think that's right either. And I think that's what we get at in the book with the world of right, where instead of by writing a story about our lives, we borrow from a lot of other stories. We sort of crowdsource our identity. And that's really dangerous because we can't keep that up forever. And that's difficult to do. And it's an ever-changing goalpost the world is always changing. So what it means to be cool 10 years ago, like right now, frosted tips and big baggy jeans and puka shell necklaces are back in with the high schoolers. And it's like, how did that happen? Like 20 years ago, and now we're back to that. So if I were to follow that all the time, I'd be constantly worried about what people are thinking. And I think authenticity is always negated whenever we're self-focused, Matt. And so whenever we can get outside of that self-focus, we're going to find a more authentic place. And that helps us to recognize our own hypocrisy and I think put forward an authentic version of ourselves. But I couldn't agree more that there's like that middle ground that we have to aim for.
So something that you mentioned, like the gym example of this person, like they go to the gym, they do things to be healthy, right? That's a great example. And if you're like, okay, hey, I'm going to change and I'm going to be like that. Is that, is there ever a case where you're doing things that it's not authentic?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. I think it depends on the motivations. If we're doing that, like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym and get fit so I can get better looking girls to like me. That may not be exactly like a super great reason, but if we're going to go to the gym because we want to have a better body and a healthier life, because we're honoring ourselves, I think when we're being authentic, Matt, we're honoring both sides of the equation, right? We're honoring ourselves and we're honoring others, because that's when your authentic self emerges. Because I think to have a self is to be a person is to live in the world in relationship with other people, and so like when we honor both sides, when I go to the gym just to try to get the other side to like me, I'm out of balance and I'm going to be disappointed because other people don't like being manipulated. They don't like when people try to get them to like them. They want people who are comfortable in their own skin, who are confident about their lives, people who are, you know, who know who they are. I think if you go to the gym because you genuinely want like a better body and you want to be stronger and you want to make sure that you're the kind of person who's always striving to grow because you'd like to be in a relationship with someone who's always striving to grow, great. Those are good reasons to go to the gym, not just because you know what I'm saying it can be sort of one sided. We don't want
Yeah.
anything that does that. Yeah.
Oh, that is so well put how you state that. So really it's inauthentic if you're doing it just for the one side. Like
Hmm.
if you are doing it for you and like other people too, that's really when it's true authenticity. Is that accurate statement?
Yeah, because that version of you emerges. It comes out as you are engaging in something you genuinely want, rather than getting someone to like you. It's a difference between manipulation and authenticity.
Yeah. And and just to that point, like getting someone to like you mentioned earlier, people can smell your intentions. You know, they can feel it. And when you're trying to get someone to like you have basically put them up on a pedestal. And no one wants to be with someone that is like just putting themselves down below them, right? Like that's just not a good fit for anybody. So very, very good points there. I love that. And something else in your book that you talk about is overcoming the personal dating roadblocks. You've hinted at this a little bit when you talked about your story, but like past trauma can be an issue or unrealistic expectations or things like that. We can have these personal dating roadblocks. What do you feel like are some of the most common roadblocks, and can you tell us like how to overcome some of those?
Look, I think the most common dating roadblocks exist on a spectrum between I am either better than you or worse than you in terms of the way that I think about myself. Again, that self getting out of balance with other people. So if I'm better than you, Matt, I feel like I deserve things from dating. I'm amazing, I'm incredible, I'm attractive, I deserve an awesome person. And this leads to a sort of arrogance about the way that I go about things, and a certain way in which I need someone who's going to acknowledge the fact that I'm amazing to be with them. So again, any one of the dating roadblocks essentially narrows the field of view. So with that idea that I'm better than other people, it narrows my field of view. I have to find a girl who's going to like and want to worship me essentially. And that's a hard thing to do. No one wants to be in that position. But on the other side, like I can, and this is probably more common than anything, people believing that they're worse than other people. You mentioned the pedestal. Like,
Yeah.
oh no, like I could never be with someone that amazing. Like they sell themselves short like crazy. And they actually sabotage their dating relationships to prove that they're not worth it. Right. And a lot of the roadblocks come in the form of like blaming people. Like one of my biggest roadblocks was blaming girls for why I was single. That was my main narrative. Like girls must just not get it. Girls here in this town that I live in, they're just shallow. All they want are summer sales guys. All they want is this. They want a guy on a motorcycle. Girls are dumb. Girls are hypocrites. They say they want this thing, then they don't like it. I was so frustrated. But all of that's just like lame because I feel insecure. And so I end up setting girls up for failure, right? I'm looking for people who are going to sort of fulfill the prophecy I'm making about myself, that I am not valuable. And so when a girl dumped me, I was frustrated, but it proved something to me. See, I told you I wasn't valuable. See, I knew it. I knew it's never going to work out. I think that's really dangerous because it's a really hard thing to see and it gets in the way of a lot of stuff. When we are able to clear that out, Matt, when we balance the scales, that confidence in the authenticity emerges naturally. It's not a forced, arrogant kind of confidence, like I know what I'm doing and I have to pretend like I do. It's sort of just this space where we're a lot quieter internally and we're a lot more connected and naturally. And people love being around people like that. Like that's the point. Like when you find someone who's genuinely comfortable in their skin, who listens to you and is genuinely interested in who you are, it doesn't matter whether you're going to be romantic with that person or not. Like you want to be around them. They're great. They're the kind of people you want to make your friend. They're the kind of people who make you want to be better. And when we can get to that place, then things start to flow really naturally. And then we can pile on top of that foundation, we can pile on techniques and things that help people communicate better, help people do, that help people manage the relationship better. People can manage relationships better when they're at a better foundation.
Right. And how do you like go from I am thinking I'm better or worse than other people or, having these kind of issues? How do you get past that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's why in the book we start with the path to the dating in the world of happy. It begins by seeing others differently. And we do an exercise, and there's actually an exercise in my course too that takes that to another level, but we have people sit down and essentially meditate on an idea. And I ask a bunch of questions. Like what I want people to start doing is to sit and recognize the fact that they have an inner world. And their inner world inside their mind and heart is full of stuff. You've got people that you love. You have people you don't like. You have work you do. You have goals you want to achieve. You have dreams. You have fears. You have nightmares. You have a past. You have a future. You have all these things going on. You're a full, like the entirety of the universe fits inside of your brain, right? Like, because you can see it. And so it's like all in there. And you get people recognizing the fact that they are a complex mystery of all these things that are going on. And then you have them turn to the person next to them and you say, the person sitting next to you is just as full as you are. Like they're just as full. And the recognition that other people are people who exist in their own universe outside of our universe. Because so often, Matt, the reason we fall into this place is because we see others only as appendages to our stories, right? I'm the main character and you are all just part of the play that's going on. And when we do that, dating becomes a casting call, right? I want to bring a girl in. I've got a script written for her. She better measure up. And if I like her on tryout one, I'll have a callback. We call that date number two. And we will bring her back and further evaluate. When we get out of that space, it's like, oh man, another person has importance outside of their usefulness to me. And when that happens, when we get to that place with a person, that's when we can put away that better than worse thing because we recognize we're actually equally as full. We're equally human. You, Matt, and I are equals in so many ways. In the sense of like, you have a podcast though, and I don't. So you're definitely better off than me. But it's like we are human beings in the fullest sense, both of us. And so the funny part is we have a lot more in common than we have differences. And that holds true no matter where you go in the world, no matter how you change the particular externals. People are relatively the same across the world in terms of their lives and their inner lives. So that's sort of a long answer to say we start there, but then there's other steps we can take. But I'll let you
Yeah,
keep.
oh wow, I love that so much. And I think that's a great point. Like human nature is human nature. We all want to be happy. We all have dreams and goals. And, we're all children of God and we want to learn and grow and do what we've been designed to do, right? So I think that's such a great point. I love that a lot. And something else that you mentioned, and we've talked a little bit about this, but implementing like technique or strategy in dating or just relationship skills in general. We start with, you're saying we start with this foundation of this authentic self emerging, and then we add these things on. Is there a, like, is there an improper way of adding things on, like further than what you've already explained with, hey, like I'm doing this just to get them to like me? Is that really all it is with like technique and dating and using a specific kind of strategy like in your dating life? What's your take on that?
Yeah, like I think any behavior or technique can be leveraged for good or evil, right? And so I think that that foundation you mentioned is very succinctly summed up as taking a genuine interest in other people for their own sake. Like that's the sentence. And then on top of that, we can layer all sorts of techniques. As far as a negative way to do that, I meet a lot of people who do genuinely have an interest in other people, but lack the ability to communicate very clearly, or aren't very good in conversation, or have a difficulty understanding timing or boundaries, or they've never been taught these things. People come from all sorts of different backgrounds. You have to learn technique. You can't just have the right mindset and then barrel through the world. You have to have a proper technique. And I think that's where the work of so many, including yourself, is so important, that people need to think, I don't just need the right mindset, I need the right skill set as well on top of it to achieve the results I want. Because it's okay to have a goal. You want to get married, you want to be loved, you want to have a family. Those are important things. And deploying strategies is the right kind of thing. But I think that I don't really think, Matt, there's a bad order of operations. I think that if someone wants to learn these things, however, they need to be ready to take on what they're ready for. You may have someone who has a difficult past with their family, maybe some trauma back there, and to bring someone into their life with that trauma still white hot, maybe not be wouldn't be that wise. Maybe it's time to get a little bit more self-awareness, take stock of where we are, what can we do. That's why I think I recommend to lots of people to work with a dating coach. It's helpful to take stock of some of that stuff and help someone lay a path out that works for you, because there may be techniques that aren't helpful, there may be techniques that are really helpful, but that's why experts exist and why books are really helpful. So get the right mindset and then engage, ask for help. I think what's really funny, Matt, about people who are single is that, look, you ask them, your car's broken, who do you talk to? And they say a mechanic. You go, yeah, of course, right? And you say, I want to get my roof done. And they go talk to a roofing guy. And then you say, I want to get married. And it's like, who are you going to talk to? And they say, no one. Why do we assume that we're supposed to be good at the most important thing in life? Why is that the thing? Like, we should be learning skills and technique. We should be seeking out help in every way we can. If this is truly the most important thing to us, wouldn't we do all we could in our power to make it a reality in the right way?
Yes.
Like, why do we not do that? I think it's because our culture puts upon us this idea that if we ask for help, then we're broken somehow, or that we're deficient. It's like, no, are you broken or deficient because you don't know how to fix your radiator in your car? No, you just don't know. And you need help. So go ask for it. It's okay. Sometimes, like I was recently at a big conference for singles, and I told this person, they're like, how do I meet people? And I was like, look, have you ever considered asking people to set you up on a date? And they were like, no, I would never do that. I said, why wouldn't you do it? And they were like, well, I don't know. And they were like really embarrassed. And I said, well, look, it's not a bad thing. The people who love you most might know a little bit about you. And they might know people who would be a good fit. Why don't you start there? If there's no one in your town that you feel interested in, why don't you take the next step out there? But it's astounding to me how little people actually seek out help in something that's so important. But
Yeah. It takes a lot of initiative. Like people need to take initiative to bring certain kind of results into their life. And I love what you're saying of asking for help. Like if you want to get good at basketball, you go hire a basketball coach. If you need help with your car, you get a mechanic, just like you're talking about. And even like just a personal story from my own life, like when I was just not having the success that I wanted in dating, I could never get past a second date. I just felt like, okay, something must be wrong with me, or I don't know. And I heard this ad from a dating coach, and it was on the radio, and it was between general conference sessions. It's always interesting what you hear between those. But
sure.
this dating coach basically said, if you're not having the success that you want in dating, just know it's not you, it's your technique. I was kind of blown away by that. And I went home and I told my dad, someone I really respect and value his opinion, about this ad. And I'm like, this is really interesting, like a really interesting idea. His initial reaction was, someone needs a dating coach, something's wrong with them. Like,
Mm.
and it's funny, now I'm a dating coach, right? But like, I listened to that and I regret that I listened to that and that I believed that for a period of time. Like, because really, if you do want to change results, like if you want a new kind of job or a better job, go talk with people who know how to do that. Like there's career coaches for that, and you can even specialize in different elements of like your career, of a career too. There's so much that you can apply in life that people have that knowledge to help you get the kind of results that you want. So I really liked how you put that. I think that's really important, really strong. Actually, I want to share one other experience real quick. I had like just a spiritual experience one time when I was single and just frustrated single. And it's hard being single, but life is just always hard. No matter if you're single or married or whatever your situation is, there's always hard things in life. But I was frustrated and I was praying, and I was just like, why am I still single? I'm doing everything you ask me to. Like, I'm trying my best here. Why am I still single? And I was so frustrated. And something that the answer that I got from God was, hey, well, if I wanted you to not be single right now, I would make it happen. Like, I want you to be single right now. I
Mm.
want you to learn some things. I want you to serve where you are. So I think it's important for us to always keep that mindset as well. And then the second thing that I got as an answer was, hey, if you want to get married to your future wife, you really need to figure out how attraction works.
Mm.
And that was actually a big moment for me, like a light bulb moment, that it's like, oh, okay, I need to make some changes. I need to learn, like what you mentioned about, if you're not a good communicator, relationship is going to be hard. It's important to learn those different kinds of skills and to develop yourself in those different areas. So I think just generally, we need to be well-rounded individuals. And something I wish that we, like you mentioned, in relationships, we don't teach people about that. Like in school, we learn a little bit about money, we learn about reading, we learn about math, we learn like all these different things, but we're not taught skills about relationships and like dating, for example. We're just kind of thrown out into the ocean of dating. Go figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think it's really a really good point that you bring up. Like, hey, there's people out there that can help. So I love that a lot.
Cool.
Okay, I want to ask you this. What does it mean to be playing games? Like, how do you define that? And what is the difference between like playing games and maybe having having healthy boundaries or standards, or a way that we approach building relationships with people? What are your thoughts on that, Sam?
It's a great question. Look, I think games emerge in an attempt to manipulate other people to join our personal quest, right? We start to play with people's emotions. For example, ghosting is a big part of the dating game right now. And ghosting comes from the fact that I'm unwilling to own up to my impact on other people. I've taken someone on a date. I've been my charming self. I can sense they like me, but I don't like them back. I'm just not going to talk to them. Bye. See ya. That's playing a game with someone else. It's a refusal to recognize the fact that the other person probably needs some words from me to give them clarity and let them go in the right way. And I don't do that. The opposite side of that, like if I'm actually committed to being happy and I really care about other people, whether or not I am dating them, I care about them as a human being. That's the core difference. Like if someone's useful to me versus if they're just another human being like myself. And so if I'm seeing someone as a person and I can sense they like me, I may feel like it's time to go tell them, hey, I'm actually not interested. Thank you so much for your interest. I can tell that we're kind of communicating, but I'm going to stop talking to you for a bit because I need to move on. I'd like to go date other people, just so you know. And that doesn't have to be the case every single time, but it's astounding what will come to you when you're actually interested in other people for their own sake. The things that occur to you to do in that space are generally really constructive. And when we apply techniques in that space, for example, set boundaries, measure time properly when we communicate effectively, all of that is grounded in the reality that the other person's a person and now we're trying to be helpful to them. Doesn't mean we have to like everyone that moves. It means we can actually, we can not date people if we want to, but just in a way that it doesn't injure them or only favor our own experience. A lot of the games emerge, Matt, when we are trying to find a person who measures up in our mind. And so when they don't measure up, we don't feel like they're valuable to us, and therefore they don't merit or they're not deserving of our help. They're not deserving of these things. So we do things to them that we feel like are perfectly fine because they're not important to us. But to them, it really hurts and it's not good. The games that are played in the dating world generally aren't things that people enjoy. If you think of anything someone complains about in the dating world, it's usually stuff that we consider part of the dating game. And the game ends when we are willing to take on the responsibility of being with other people. And when we do that, then it becomes not a game, but an adventure, a journey toward connection, right? And dating becomes an exciting opportunity to connect with other people. We stop ghosting. We stop, playing the games with their emotions. We stop trying to lead them on. That's another one, leading people on. Like, people lead each other on because they enjoy being liked, but they don't actually enjoy the people who like them, right? So like
Yeah.
they like the feeling of being desirable, and that's not good. Like, it's just not good. So anything that ultimately, if we reflect on it, would impact another person negatively is probably part of the game, right? And negatively in the sense that we take no responsibility for it. We may have to break up with people. That's going to affect them negatively. But if we take responsibility for its impact, then it's okay. If we don't, we just sort of break up with them and leave. I'm thinking of, like, there's two stories I share in the book about breakups. One is, and actually the names escape me right now, and I'll just make up names for this purpose. But
Okay.
we'll take Tom, for example. Tom was dating Rachel and dated her for a year, told her he loved her, took her to his family reunion. They met the parents. She's gearing up to get married. And a week later, he drops the bomb on her, breaks up with her. And he doesn't, like, let her down and then let her be. He, like, cries for 3 or 4 hours with her, telling her how amazing she is and she's so wonderful, she's so incredible. And then the very next day, he's on the dating apps. Right there. I mean, he's like instantly. Supposedly, he's heartbroken and destroyed and he can't go on, but he can't like her. And then he's like instantly back in the game. It's like, whoa, hold on a second, bro. I thought you were broken. I thought you couldn't get out of bed in the morning. But it turns out he's just ready to go. And you're like, okay, so what happened? And poor Rachel is sitting there holding the bag. Like, I've had to comfort this man child who's had to cry with me. And frankly, like, he may have felt bad about it, but really what he's trying to do is prove that he's a good person while also breaking her heart, to show her that, like, hey, it's hard for me, but I'm sorry. And he knew that he should have been talking to her about his misgivings months before, but he wasn't. He was playing games in that sense. He's unwilling to communicate about where he's at. He's worried, or he's hoping something will change. On the other end, you have my friend Sam. Ironically, he's still named Sam, like me, and he's dating a girl named Kelly. And Kelly and Sam are dating for like 3 or 4 months, and Sam realizes he doesn't want to date anymore. He's like, I actually would like to move on and date other people. So he sits Kelly down and says, Kelly, you deserve someone who's fully committed to you, and I actually feel like I'd like to date other people. So I'm going to end our relationship. And look, we don't have to be friends. If you want to call me, I'm here for you, but you don't have to be my friend. I get it. This is not like a good thing. I'm sorry that I'm having to let you down, and but I'm here for you. But we're done as of now. And then he like let her ask a couple questions, and then he moved on. It was like a half an hour conversation. That's a little short, but later you talk to Kelly and she says that was the best breakup I ever had. She's like, I was able to start dating the day after. I was freed. I didn't have to worry about where he was. He didn't play games with my heart. He took responsibility for the impact he had. And then she was able to depart, right? And be free. And they're not like calling each other all the time friends, but she's in a much better spot. So I think when we play games, it's about us. When we are really authentic in dating, then it's about helping other people. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, and it's about respecting and caring and taking responsibility. Yeah, very well said, Sam. I really appreciate that answer. So ghosting sometimes is done because someone doesn't know how to, like, give that rejection. And it's hard. It's really hard to have that kind of conversation, and it's not easy. What's your advice for people who are in that boat?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, the answer, just because it's scary doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. Like, those things are not the same. So when it comes to ghosting, you shouldn't do it. And I think that you need to ask for help in crafting those messages. Number one, you have dating coaches. Number two, we live in the era of AI. If you have to, ask ChatGPT to tell you what to say. I'm just joking. But you can get more help. A simple, you can even write it out beforehand and test it on other people. But remember that leaving someone in the dark about your relationship, that person's going to sit there and wonder what happened. And they're not going to fill the vacuum of that silence with good thoughts, Matt. Like, they're not going to sit around and go, it must be because he's not ready for a relationship. No, they're going to go, it's because I'm ugly. I knew it. Like, all the wonderful insecurities are going to fill that bubble. And that's not good. Like, we've just left someone hanging, and now we've left them to wallow in their own insecurities about why we're not willing to talk to them again. We don't know if that's the 50th time they've been ghosted. You don't know. And so it's
Yeah.
like, it's not a good idea. And I do know it's scary. I'm not gonna skirt around that. That is a difficult thing to do, but it's a skill that should be developed to be able to speak clearly what you're feeling and thinking. That comes in handy in all sorts of ways in marriage. It comes in handy all sorts of ways in other relationships in your life. In fact, if you're tempted to ghost when you're dating, you're likely failing in other communication arenas in your life, in your job, with your family members, with your friends. There are other areas. If this is a temptation to stop talking to people, it's a red flag to say, I need to up my communication game. I need to become a much more either bold or clear communicator. I need to get over this fear, because if you do, if you're able to express yourself clearly, you will be so much more successful in your career. You'll be so much better off in your marriage. Like, I don't think it's a good thing to think I'm going to be able to ghost people and then I'm going to walk into a marriage and be successful at communicating with my wife. Like, you're gonna bring that habit in of when she has something hard to say to you, you're just gonna go, oh, blah blah blah, see ya. And you're gonna run away from it, or you're gonna ignore the text, and she's gonna go, why do you not engage? And you're gonna have all these troubles, and it all starts in that first spot. So I know it's scary, but
Yeah.
it's important to push. I don't know. That's my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah. I love that. I agree with that so much. I think that's very well said, Sam. And yeah, I mean, honestly, like that's a good suggestion of like asking Chat GPT. You can say, hey, what would be something that's the most kind thing I could say to tell someone I'm not interested? Like there's going to be, and you could say from the best psychologist, or, give it whatever kind of context you want to. But yeah, I would say, honestly, if someone's asking you out and you're not interested, you just got to say politely, like, hey, I really appreciate it, but I just am not feeling interested, or this doesn't feel like a good fit for me. And I love what you shared earlier in that example. Like, you deserve someone who's fully committed to you, or you deserve someone who is totally interested in you. And so I'm just not a good fit for that. And just moving on from there. But it doesn't change the fact, like, we should work on ourselves. I love how you brought that in. Like, if we're ghosting now, we're going to be ghosting or having other communication issues that are similar to that in our marriage or in other relationships, right? So it's important to work on this. I think that's so good that you're saying that, Sam. And on the other end of it, like, we cannot control other people. And the fact of the matter is, if you're a guy pursuing women and you're working hard in dating, you are going to get ghosted. And I'm saying that, like, talking about the men because I work mostly with men, but women too. Like, there's going to be situations where you're just going to be left hanging, and there's nothing really like you can do about it. The other skill is accepting ghosting and owning your response to that, and not
Yes.
taking it personally, but just saying, hey, you know what? They are not interested enough in me. I do want someone who is clearly interested in me, that truly appreciates and respects me, and who's a good communicator, right? And so I'm going to move forward, even if it hurts. I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to be okay, type of thing. Do you have any other advice for how to deal with getting ghosted?
Yeah. Look, I think it's important to recognize what it means for someone to be the one, right? We talk about that a lot. And there's a question that often comes up: how do I know if someone's the one? And one of the main criteria for someone being the one is that they choose you. And like, when we're dating to be right, the criteria for the one is the person who fulfills the cultural check boxes for me, the person who makes me look the best. That's the one. And that's not true. The one is the person who chooses you. Look, you're going to marry someone, and that person is not going to be the most attractive person on the planet Earth. Doesn't mean they're not attractive. They are. But there may be someone more attractive. There may be someone smarter. There may be someone with a better job and more money. Like, the infinity of comparison is still in front of you once you get married. And so what you have to realize is that the person you marry, the person who ends up being the one, is the person who chooses you. All those other types of people, they didn't choose you. They have opted out of the privilege of being with you. And that's okay. That's not a commentary on you. That's a commentary on them and where they are. And you're like, I don't want to be with someone who ghosts me. If someone ghosts me, you know, sometimes I've recommended to people how to craft messages to a ghoster to say, look, if someone's ghosting, you have got to lay down the law and say, no, I don't take that. I'm going to take your ghosting as your silence as you're not interested, and I'll see you later. Like, no problem. Don't let them get off the hook with it. Other times it's like, hey, you can just deal with it, but you don't have to like take it personally because it's not a personal attack. That's the thing. When the person, this is why dating to be happy is so important. When we genuinely see other people and are interested in them for their own sake, when they make decisions, we don't see them as reflections of ourselves. We see them as their own choices. Like, they get to make choices. That's okay. How cool that they get to make a decision, and so do I. You got to preserve your power. When we're dating to be right and someone rejects us, they're throwing off the entire story we've written. How dare they? Don't they understand what I'm supposed to be doing? I've got a timeline here. How can you do this to me? But when we're dating to be happy, it's like, hey, you ghosted me? Okay, great. What a wonderful filter. I'm looking for the one, and the one is the person who chooses me. I'm excited about finding the person who's going to choose me. Great. And off we go. And that lines up all sorts of pre-work for boundary setting, right? You think about boundary setting. Like, I'm looking for someone who's going to choose me, who's going to communicate with me, who's going to be honest, who's going to be with me. And that's an awesome foundation to set boundaries up on.
Yeah, I love that. And in your concept of being right versus happy, like if you take that to how to react or respond to being ghosted, like you can try and say, hey, they wronged me, like I need to make sure they know it, or whatever. Or you can choose to be happy and recognize, oh, hey, they're not a good fit for me. They make their choices, and they are showing me they're not a good fit for me. And yes, it still can hurt a lot because there's people that make us feel a certain way, or they're very attractive because there's a lot of positive good things about them, but there's the core things that you need in a relationship to be truly happy together. And if someone's ghosting you, like they don't have, like, it's not, you're missing a key ingredient to a successful relationship.
I agree. Matt, do you mind if I chime in one more thing on that?
Yeah.
So, look, you mentioned the word attraction, which is really important. When we date in the world of right, what we find attractive is ultimately different than when we date in the world of happy. What's important to us in both worlds is different. Now, there's an initial physical attraction which is unchanged. That's kind of like built in. That's like sort of biological thing, and that's okay. But what ultimately draws us towards someone is different. When we're dating to be happy, we're looking for someone who's open to connection. We're looking for someone who's genuine, who's kind, who's helpful. We're building toward a long-term relationship. When we're in the world of right, we're looking for superficial qualities that can prove that we are valuable, right? I want to date a hot girl, not because I'm attracted to her, but because if I get her, oh my gosh, what's my dad going to say? Or what's my roommate going to say? What's my mission president going to say when I show him how successful I am because I dated this hot girl, right? We suddenly grab her like a piece of chess, like a chess piece again, and we're like, you're going to be the queen to my king, and you're going to rule the realm. And it's like, but not only are we physically attracted to people, when we need to be right, we're elevating that to a sort of an insane level. And it's like, when we need to be happy, we date people we're attracted to physically, of course, but we're also giving a lot more points to the stuff that matters. Like, you're choosing me, you're a good communicator, you're kind, you're bright, you're intelligent. Like, I want to be around you, and I want to form a life with someone like that because I'm looking for long-term love. I think it's so important to make sure that people understand that your attraction can change. I've met girls before who were so beautiful on the outside, and after 10 minutes, they had jumped down the scale. Like, I don't even know how they did it without breaking their legs. They jumped down, and you're like, I never want to see them again. And I've been with other girls. So I talked to other girls before who weren't initially as attractive as those other girls, but I mean, their humor, their intelligence, their wit, their kindness, it's suddenly like up they go, the scale. And you're like, wow. So attraction is not as fixed as we may want to believe. It's like, and in fact, when we understand that truth, we can go, okay, I'm going to choose to be attracted to features or components of a person that are more long lasting. And I'm also going to look for that physical attraction. I'm going to combine both things because you need both, you know. Too often
Yeah.
people end up in marriages that are built on the superficial, and that's a recipe for disaster. Because as you know, being married, and I know being married, as soon as you get married, that person tends to go off script. You know, they tend to like not fulfill your expectations all the time. And I mean, imagine if your relationship is built on that, how devastating to you, right? It's like, man, I hired this person to do this job for me, and now they don't do it. And you're mad. And it's like, well, what if they're just a human being and we chose to form a relationship, which is a partnership and a teamship toward the future? That's a different place to be.
Yeah, and working on making that relationship better and all that. I love that. And attraction is a very interesting concept, something I've researched a lot, and it's a multifaceted thing. Like you mentioned, there is physical attraction. Like, hey, they look beautiful, right? And so, really, what attraction is it's a physiological response to some kind of stimulus or stimuli. And so, yes, it often starts with physical. Like, I see something with my eyes, right? And then my brain starts kicking off processes throughout my body. I feel certain emotions or things like that, but not only like physical aspects of it, but like you said, like humor. When someone brings humor in, that can trigger attraction in us too, or other, positive, wonderful things that make us feel good. Like that's really what attraction is it's people making us feel good. And that can show up in a lot of different ways. And I love how you talked about that it can change quickly too. Like someone who's very physically attractive, then you talk with them for 10 minutes and it's okay, this is not a good fit. It can totally change. And you really need to think of it holistically, right? Like we can't just say, oh, are they physically attractive? Like you mentioned, if it's just built on like superficial things, when you get married, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is just empty. This isn't a good fit. What about the other things? Like there's so many things that come into a successful relationship that you need to be paying attention to in dating. And I love I say that attraction, it's triggered. It's not really a choice. And that like physiological response to stimuli, like that's a thing. Attraction is not a choice, but love is a choice. And we get to choose who we love, and other people get to choose who they love, right? And when you choose to love each other and the attraction has been a part of this experience, that's really how you build a strong, solid romantic relationship and marriage,
Yeah.
right? You need all those ingredients. It's a really complex thing and really a miraculous thing. Like getting married, just it is it's a miracle that so many people get married all the time and start successful, happy families. And then there's a lot of people who struggle because, someone changed and it's no longer a good fit, like, and it will not work out. That's a heartbreaking situation to be in. But sometimes it is how it is. But when two people come together, they choose to love each other and they just keep growing together, it is this unstoppable thing for good.
I agree. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, something else that I want to ask about is with playing games, like sometimes people are like, "Oh, I have to wait like 24 hours before I text them back if they're waiting 24 hours before they'll text me back," right? Like there's little things like sometimes unwritten rules or ways we think about stuff in dating, like how we need to behave in dating. And then there's also boundaries or things that we can do to protect ourselves or our feelings. Like for example, when you are pursuing someone that you're really attracted to and things seem like they're going well, they're exciting, you can go around and tell like a bunch of people about this really awesome person that you're going on dates with, or you can limit it to 2 to 3 trusted people
Mm.
that you talk about it minimally, like so that you're not getting yourself overexcited about
Mm.
this one person and telling everyone. Like that would be a boundary or like a self-control protection, I guess, to say, okay, hey, I'm going to hold myself back here a little bit just to protect my heart a little bit or something like that. So that's one example. But then there's the other example of like, hey, if they're waiting 24 hours before they text me back, I have to wait 24 hours. Like, how do you know if you're like being authentic, if you're playing games or setting healthy boundaries? Like, how do you define that?
That's a great question. I think it's so important. I love that self-control piece because sometimes people feel the urge, especially when things are going well, to just start barfing on people. I got to tell everyone and I got to text them all the time and I got to smother them to death. And look, I think what's really interesting is when we date to be right, there's sort of a timeline that's written in our head. Things have to happen in a certain way. And they have to happen a certain way because that's the way things should go. Or I need to make sure I lock down this person before they figure out that I'm not actually that great and then they leave me behind. Like we get anxious, we get worried because we're worried that they're going to figure out that we're not valuable and they're gonna wise up and they're gonna move on. And it's like I gotta hurry, I gotta do things. It's like, hold on a second. When we're dating to be right, we're trying to win that argument. We're at the mercy of our cultural expectations. I meet so many people who are 24 years old, Matt, and feel like they're old singles. And you go, what are you talking about? You're 24 years old. Like, you have so much time left. Don't worry. Like, calm down. But they've bought into this idea that if they're not married by the time they exit BYU, then they're not valuable. Something's gone wrong. And it's like, well, that's a story. That's not the truth by any stretch of the imagination. And so, but they're going on dates now with a certain, what's it called? Franticness. They're like freaking out on every date. Like, this has got to be the one. Is this the one? This better be the one. I can't bear being single for another year. And they start to like do certain things. And those boundaries that you just mentioned are so helpful to be like, hold on a second. Like, remember that this other person's a person. So they get a chance to choose. And they have their own thoughts and they're thinking about you and they may not be thinking about you, but you don't get to control them. I think when we are engaged in dating behaviors that are designed to control the behavior of other people, we're in the wrong. I think when we're
Mm-hmm.
engaged in dating behaviors that actually help us take responsibility for ourselves, we're doing what's probably right. And when we're thinking about the other person, like maybe it's important, and this is where it gets really nuanced. This is where the coaching piece is so helpful, right? Because every person is a person. And so they all have their own individual needs and challenges and background. So it might be that, yeah, we need to make the communication a little slower because I tend to barf on people. Let's slow it down a little bit. Or, hey, you know what? You actually need to pick up the pace on your communication because you're too slothful. And people think you're not interested in them when you are. Or, hey, you may need to work on punctuality, showing up on time for stuff because people think that you don't care about them. So maybe a self-control thing is I'm going to show up 5 minutes before dates to make sure I'm there on time, I'm ready to go, and I'm respecting their time, right? And I think that's where there isn't like a hard and fast rule on every behavior. It's just really a meditation that I'm trying to get people into, which is a meditation around why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I doing it to force a timeline? Am I doing it to manipulate another person? Am I trying to control them? Am I worried, scared, anxious? If all of that's inside me, then I'm probably going about it the wrong way. If I'm confident, if I'm feeling calm, if I'm feeling like asking for help and trying to move things forward in a real way, great. Whatever ends up being the thing that we deploy strategically, when it's built on that foundation, will probably go well. And other
Yeah.
people will resonate with it. And it's like, awesome.
I love that. That is such a good answer. To the point of dating frantically or, like, oh, this got to work out in this timeline or whatever, I think it's unhelpful pressure, right? It's just not helpful. It's not good. I heard this devotional from Wendy Nelson in 2016. This was when Russell M. Nelson gave his somewhat famous devotional talk,
Mm.
and she spoke alongside him, and it was about like the new year, and hey, you get to set goals and be your best self. And she talked about was, something that's really powerful is actually being desperate. She
Mm.
talked about, the woman who had the issue of blood for years and years, and the man who just was laying by the pool of Bethesda, like just waiting and hoping for something, but it wasn't coming. And the Savior brought forth miracles to people who were desperate. And so I think it's good to have the desire to, put good effort into dating. So there's the other extreme where it's like, okay, I'm just giving up, right? And then you have the extreme of, I'm going to be frantic. Oh no, the world is ending. Things aren't working out right. But I think what this example of desperation that Wendy Nelson's trying to get at in her talk was really, hey, you want to be desperate, but you want to rely on the Lord and also accept his timing. And I think that's a really powerful way of like everything that has happened, it was supposed to happen. There's a beautiful plan that God has for each of us. And I've found in my own life some of the things that are seemingly the worst thing, they always work together for my good. And it's just so beautiful. Like we can trust in God. And I think that bringing God into dating actually helps so much take the pressure off, and it helps us be so much more successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to add that on.
That's a fantastic add-on. I agree fully. Something that I think is important for people to recognize too is that, and I was working in a pizza shop in Rigby, Idaho, and like the manager of the store like doled out wisdom all the time for some reason. He was like this $5 pizza philosopher. And I was talking to him about dating one time, and it's an important thing to remember that when we bring God into our dating journey, he's a partner in that path with us. He's not going to drive the car for you. And like he said to me, this guy, he says, Sam, God's not going to make the most important decision of your life for you. Like if you're waiting for him to do something for you, but there's that wonderful balance I think you just brought up of being desperate, being striving for what you want and trusting that the Lord will guide you. Those things have to go together because it's such a mistake to be like, well, it'll just happen. It's like, well, no, it won't. And actually waiting around for it to happen is probably why it's not happening. When you got to get to a place of action, taking action in the right way and opening up. Because I think when we get to a place where we're dating to be happy, we sort of remove that pavilion. The Spirit can speak to you a lot more clearly when you're seeing other people as people. God has some interesting things to show you about his children. He's got a lot more like a treasure trove of things to teach you as you're open to be taught by others. Like you're really open to be influenced by other people. And that, number one, makes you more attractive. Check. People love that. But secondly, God can like talk to you more. He can like help you see things and understand things. Whereas before, we're sort of like got our blinders down. Like if it doesn't happen the way that I want it to happen, then I'm not interested. And we're sort of forcing our own plan into the universe rather than accepting a different kind of plan. And that's, I think, when we're able to take that away, some really cool stuff can happen.
Oh yeah. That is so great. And yeah, the examples of like the woman with the issue of blood, she spent all her money. She did all that she could to like try and get healed. She was seeking out to do everything that she could do. So that just highlights even more what you're saying here. And the man sitting by the pool, like, yeah, he was waiting, but he did things to get help, right? Like he was asking people to help him and he was doing what he could. And I think that's the important thing is we need to partner with God and do our part. So, okay, last question I have for you, Sam, is if you could leave listeners with one mindset shift that helps them end the dating game while still creating successful and happy relationships, what would it be?
That's a great question. Look, I think we got to start thinking of our dates, the actual dating, the action of dating, going on dates, as a moment of curiosity rather than a moment to impress another person. So if we can shift the mindset, we don't go on dates to impress someone. We're not there to win something. We're not there to say, hey, I scored as many points as possible, or I got them to like me. If we can shift that away, number one, we'll become a lot more confident and calm on dates. Dates aren't a chance to impress, or if we're not performing, there's no stage fright, right? It's gone. So that's number one. Second thing is make it about curiosity. Try to talk a lot less than you do now on your dates. Try to really get curious about other people. That can be, look, I've advised people before, write down 5 really great questions. Ask ChatGPT for 5 incredible questions and then go to the date and say, look, I'm trying to get better at listening. I'm trying to learn more about other people. I want to ask you these 5 questions throughout the night to kind of spur our conversation. What do you think? No one's going to be mad about that. Everyone's like, cool. Like, I don't have to come up with conversation. This is so easy. Like, thank you. But as we shift dates to being more about curiosity, what happens, Matt? There's this principle in structural design, because I design training and I design workshops. There's this concept there that is that people cannot read and listen to you talk at the same time, right? It's impossible for a person to read words on a screen and listen to what another person is saying at the same time, which means the brain has to switch between these things. You can't multitask because they're different parts of you. The same thing goes on a date. If we're really listening to another person, then the inner voice we have that's telling us we're not enough, all the insecurities, all the crap that we have from our culture, all that stuff quiets down. We can't hear that talking when we're hearing someone else talk. The inverse is true. When we're really not focused on them, all that stuff, that volume goes up and we experience all that anxiety on dates. So if you want dating to be more of a fun experience, practice getting curious. And that looks like this. I ask someone a question and they give me an answer. And then I ask them a follow-up question. I go, tell me more about that. How did you come to that conclusion? What experience did you have that made you say that? And like, pretend like you're interviewing them a little bit, like a newspaper reporter. Try to get them to talk. You don't have to interrogate people, but you do have to shift dating to be like, I'm going out to learn about another person tonight. That's all I'm there to do. And if I like what I learn, I'm going to do it again, and we're going to keep going along that path. And I think people find it's so liberating that dating becomes an exercise in curiosity rather than an opportunity to perform. When that shifts, dating overall just gets so much easier, so much cleaner, and you'll find yourself being authentic naturally. It just you'll be the person you want to be, and you'll go, how did this person arrive? And they arrived when you weren't looking. They like to sneak in when you're not watching. Anyway.
Yeah. Wow, I love that, Sam. Thank you so much. And thanks for all the wisdom that you've shared. This has been a truly
Sure.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome conversation and really has brought a different definition to authenticity than I think the world typically talks about authenticity and the power of it and how it can really strengthen relationships and deepen connections. So fantastic. And everyone listening, I don't know if you're not sold on Sam's book, How to Date Authentically. Like, I don't know what could sell you more than what he has said right now in this session. It's just been phenomenal, phenomenal stuff, and it's worth diving deeper into. So, Sam, how can people get your book?
Look, I got it on Amazon. I've got it in audio, print, and ebook. You can also visit writeorhappybook.com and check out my course, or you can get the book there too. And then follow me on Instagram, How to Date Authentically. It's at How to Date Authentically. Follow me. Love to share more content with you.
Thank you. Okay. So go do that. Learn more about what Sam has to share. It's really, really valuable stuff, as we've heard just now in this session. So thank you so much, Sam, for joining us.
Great to be.
We will talk again soon.